Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Beer.
It's what's for dinner?
We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Yeah. Hey, we had a nice lunch, a little bit of a Indian buffet there.
Yeah.
Curry buffet. Yeah.
Had some
pretty decent.
Pacheco Indian, I guess, or Concord Indian.
Pacheco.
Ooh, that's going to catch up with you.
That's where the Pacheco smoker comes from.
Yeah. That'll catch up quick.
Be burning twice, once on the way in and once on the way out. Well, and we didn't have any good beer there, but we had a great beer here in the studio. The Sierra Nevada Tumbler. That is awesome.
Yeah,
that is really good. If you get a chance, grab yourself some Sierra Nevada Tumbler, 2010 Tumbler Autumn Brown Ale. They label it as. Kind of like a light smoky. It's got some caramel. It's a great little beer.
Overtones of chocolate. Yeah.
Justin, you were saying that might even be one of your favorites.
I think so. I think it's certainly my favorite Sierra Nevada beer.
Yeah.
And it might be my favorite brown ale that I can buy commercially.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Yeah, I like it.
Really enjoying that. Well, and I finally put together my top tier system.
Ah, very good.
You know, I've been on the road a lot, so that was kind of my excuse. But I put together my top tier system, and it's really not that difficult. You know, Blickman was saying, "Hey, if you have any trouble putting it together," I think he thinks I'm an idiot because really the instructions were very clear. Follow the instructions. I actually did it by myself.
Oh, okay.
You know, and that's a little tricky because you got to lift up some. The
didn't
burners.
Have your daughters help you this time?
No. I cracked open some beer, turned on the radio, just hung out in the garage and put it together. Just kind of enjoyed, geeking out with my Blickman top tier system.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, and Blickman is the sponsor of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Blickman Engineering. Check them out. BlickmanEngineering.com. Blickman with two N's. Go there and check out a lot of the cool equipment, the top tier system like John and I both have.
Yeah.
You can check that out there. And, while I'm putting this thing together, I was thinking to myself, this is actually kind of fun putting this together. It takes about the amount of time, maybe a brew day. Maybe 5 to 8 hours to put together a system.
It's not a small system. And
right.
It does take some
It's
time.
heavy, high quality stuff. But by shipping it broken down like that, you're saving a lot on shipping. So you're not having to pay the shipping because the shipping isn't free from anybody. Somebody pays for it one way or another. So either they increase the price or whatever. So they actually by being able to ship it in smaller boxes and separate boxes, I think they save some on shipping. And you actually get to know your system and assemble it the way that you like. Burner positions, things like that. So. I got to thinking about it, and I think the only thing that better about putting it together would have been if I had a friend over, could have made a day of it, have some beers, have some laughs, put together a system would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about all our listeners out there, and I said to myself, hey, we should go out there and help somebody put together their Blickman top tier system, right?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I mentioned it to John Blickman. I said, John, what about some sort of promotion where you crack open your wallet and pay for us to go out and put together somebody's system and brew with them? And generous guy that is, he thought it was a good idea. He was like, I tell you what, he's going with us too. So that's the thing. We got a promotion going. If you listen to the BN and you buy a top tier system between now and January 31st of 2011. you will be in the drawing for not only John Palmer and myself to come out, but John Blickman as well. All three of us will come out to your location if you're in the lower 48, restricted to the lower 48 United States. We'll come out to your location and
watch you put it together.
Yeah, we'll stand around and kibitz while you put it. If you need help putting it together, we'll help put it together. If you got it together and you want to brew, we'll come out and brew with you and spend the day and hang out. We'll brew together and have a good time, the three of us and you. So if you're thinking about buying yourself a top tier system, now's the time.
Yeah,
go ahead and do it, or drop hints to the wife if you're looking for a Christmas present for yourself. A top tier system is a mighty fine Christmas present. And this will give you enough time to get it ordered and shipped, and then we'll come out and hang with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It'd be fun.
Yeah. And I don't know about the outside the lower 48. I know Blickman's willing to pick up the tab for that, but I don't know if it's somewhere else. Brazil. Then I guess maybe if they were willing to pick up the tab, then I'm sure I'd be willing to get on the plane. Yeah. I mean, we could be talked into almost anywhere, I think, but there's no guarantees there because I think you'd have to pick up the tab on that. And we haven't cleared that with the sponsor.
That's right.
But I think that might work.
Yeah.
So that guy's so nice. I think you just go ahead and buy yourself a top tier, and then we'll talk him into coming with us.
Hey, John, French Riviera, how's it sound?
Yeah.
Then you have to go back and talk your wives into you leaving the
We're
country.
going to Akron, Ohio.
I gotta go for work, dear. I gotta go for work. It's work. Yeah.
What are all these condoms for, Jamil? Work, sweetheart.
Work.
You don't know anything about brewing, do you?
What are all the roofies and condoms for? It's just
flotation devices.
Yeah. And the roofies are used in the beer. Uh-huh. That's why it makes you tired when you drink it.
Coagulant.
Or
something.
Coagulants and condoms, yes. So, check it out, BlickmanEngineering.com. Check out the top-tier systems we're talking about. Get yourself one, any one of the top-tier systems, and you're in the drawing for...
We'll come out and help you set it up.
Yeah.
Should give you some pointers on how to brew on it. And should be a good day.
Drink some of your beer.
That's right.
Probably, try and pee accurately in your toilet.
Hit on your wife and kids.
Your wife and kids, yeah. Oh yeah, it's sounding more and more attractive all the time.
Although it could be a Brewster too. So hit on her husband and kids, I suppose.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we're not bringing Justin along, so no hitting on the husbands. But yeah, that's true. Could be your spouse. Mm-hmm. Hey, could be same sex couple. Fine by me.
Cheers.
And also, I wanted to mention. While we're going to be talking about something kind of Australian today, I want to mention Grain and Grape down in Melbourne area. John Preston, they've been in business there 20 years, and
good man,
good place. He's got a lot of products in stock there. Finest grain selection I've seen at most homebrew shops. I mean, I've only seen better at some of the bigger shops. He's got quite a selection.
Yeah, it's a really nice shop. I remember seeing it when we were there.
And good staff there. They all seem to know their stuff as well. I was impressed. And they do regular brew sessions and stuff. You go down there and hang out, have some beer, and help out with the brew and all that. It seemed like fun. Grain and Grape. Check them out. grainandgrape.com.au. And good people. Send them an email. Tell them thanks for helping sponsor the show and pay for it so you don't have to. Good guy and deserves our support. All right. Today, what's our question for?
No, you're supposed to say good day.
Good day, Justin.
Well, we had an email come in from Rick, who's curious about the brew in a bag phenomena, he says. I'd like to take some of the cleanup and time out of it, and it appears I can do all grain either in the kettle or continue to use the mash tun as a single-step mash and potentially increase efficiency as well. My main goal is to find out if it works as well as the Aussies say it does. Cutting out an hour or two of cleanup would be very nice. Thanks from Rick.
All right. Yeah, brew in a bag. John, start me off here with what? Explain to me, what is brew in a bag? What does that mean?
Okay, well, what it is, it's a, I guess I would classify it primarily as a simplification process where you put all of your crushed grain inside a giant grain bag made out of nylon or polyester mesh, and you lower that into your brew pot with a fairly high water to grist ratio, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, and mash, in that bag in your pot. Fold the top of the bag over the top of the pot. You can stir. You can conduct your mash. When your mash is done, you simply grab the top of the bag and pull it out to drain over the pot. You don't sparge. Typically, and that you get a little cloud of your wort, but that is your mashing and sparging process, all in one bag, all in one vessel, and you boil right after that in that same vessel. So it really simplifies the amount of equipment you have, and takes out a step, shortens up the brew day a bit.
Okay. Well, I went down to Melbourne just recently to attend the Beer and Brewer Expo. As a matter of fact, John and I are both writing for Beer and Brewer magazine. Actually, the flip side of it is now called Home Brewer, David Lippman's magazine there. You find it in Australia very easily. And John and I are writing for that. We're doing the kind of the FAQ column, answering questions.
Right.
And we do that every issue. So check that out if you get a chance. So while I was in Melbourne, I this question was coming up, and I found a couple of nice blokes there and that do brew in a bag, and kind of cornered them there in the pub and asked them some questions, and we'll hear about that right back after this.
Brew smart.
Brew strong. This is Brew Strong.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Whether I'm making me dry stout or rebuilding me kegs, I head to the heart of dear Dublin for me homebrewing supplies.
You head all the way back to Emerald Isle just for a wee batch of grain or a bit of keg tubing?
No, you moronic waste of liver. Dublin, California. I go to HopTech.
For 30 years, HopTech in Dublin, California has been supplying homebrewers with malt extract, fresh grains, hops, spices and sugars, hop oils and extracts, and much more. HopTech is one of the first homebrew supply shops on the internet and is proud to offer award-winning beer kits, both online and in their store.
Mention the BN Army for a 10% discount off your order.
The store is open every day except Wednesday, or shop online at hoptech.com anytime. HopTech is run by passionate, award-winning brewers who live, love, and travel for beer and bring their experience to the store for you.
If you don't want to visit Dublin, just call toll-free 800-DRY-HOPS or go to hoptech.com.
Visit HopTech today in Dublin, California and at hoptech.com.
Downtown Joe's, located in the historic Oberon building in beautiful downtown Napa, California, offers an award-winning brew pub experience from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. For 15 years at the corner of 2nd and Main, Downtown Joe's has been voted Best Night Spot 7 times and Best Brew Pub for the last 4 years in a row. Brewmaster Colin Kaminsky's handcrafted ales, like his Tail Wagon Amber Ale and Double Secret Probation IPA, are the perfect accent to riverside dining, live music, and a relaxing outdoor patio. Don't miss the Beer of the Month, special rotating taps, and the BN Army Member Special. Wear your BN gear, get 10% off your beer. Visit downtownjoes.com to make reservations, peruse their extensive calendar of events, or just read more about their fantastic beers. Come enjoy the fine beer, food, and music. Downtown Joe's, the award-winning brew pub where you'll feel at home.
Hi, I'm John from Grain and Grape in Melbourne, Australia. We've been supplying home brewers with equipment, ingredients and advice for over 20 years. We carry a great range of grain, hops, wheyers, liquid cultures and all the gear you need to make great beer, from the most basic setup to a fully automated Herm system. We're all keen brewers, so drop in on one of our twice-monthly all-grain brewing demos and have a chat with Chris, Dan, Paul, Nick or Sam. We'll talk about brewing and recipes and systems and techniques all day. If you're squeezed for time or just dabbling in all grain, try our range of artisan ale fresh wort kits, brewed at Melbourne's very own Mountain Goat Brewery. We're very proud to be a major sponsor of the Australian National Homebrewing Conference. This year we've got Randy Mosher and Gordon Strong heading here for 3 big days in October. Mention the Brewing Network when you're ordering online or over the phone to receive freight free on your next order under 15 kilos. Check out our website grainandgrape.com.au for conditions, and we'll see you at the conference.
Hilo, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Yeah! Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get any better than this, baby.
It's the Brewing Network.
I'm in Melbourne, and I'm speaking with Dwayne and Mark, a couple of Melbourne brewers who do brew in a bag. Mark, can you tell me about how you go about brewing a bag? How's that different than a regular all-grain brewer would do?
Well, I've never done regular all-grain brewing, but the thing with brewing a bag, it is simplistic. You get your mash water up to the strike temperature, plus a few degrees depending on your system. Drop your bag in, dump in your milled grain to your strike temp, and away you go. You just let it mash.
Right, so it's fairly similar to setting up a regular mash. You're adding your water, and then you add your grains, you dough in, and you let it go ahead and mash. All right, so Dwayne, you were mentioning the amount of strike water that you put in for the mash. How do you calculate that out?
Well, to calculate strike water is basically I've gone off there's a BIAB site info, which is all about brewing a bag, and I started with the 38 litre strike water with around 2 degree drop, and that's worked for me perfectly pretty much every brew so far.
All right, so you're adding your grains in, and then what I don't understand is how do you sparge, or do you sparge at all?
No sparge at all. You add most of your water in at your strike temp, dough in your grain, let it sit for whatever mash time you want. You can then add more water to raise it up to a mash out temp or not, depending on what you feel like doing, and just let it do what it does. Enzymes are very good things.
Okay, so now I've got my grains in my bag, I've doughed in, I let it convert, and then so how do I proceed from there? It's all converted. How do I get the extract or the wort out of the grains and into the kettle?
Well, the enzymes have worked at your mash temp that you've decided you want to use. You lift the bag, which isn't too bad because it drains straight back into the kettle. While the bag's draining in the kettle, you get your burner going, get it up to the boil, and then it's the same as any other brew system.
Now, what about a mash out? Do you guys perform a mash out at all?
I do perform a mash out. I normally go for about 24 to 25 litres of water for the mash. add about 16 litres of water to raise it up to the 75 degrees C or thereabouts for the mash out. I'm not very pedantic about that, but it's just to loosen up the sugars in the malt that's still in the bag.
So I imagine you could also fire up the kettle early and heat up the mash directly. You could even lift it up, fire it up, and then lower it back down or something like that?
You can, but I'm paranoid and I'm worried about burning the bag.
Okay, even if you lift it up. Now, that's one thing I'm not familiar with. How do you lift this thing up and hold it out of the kettle so it'll drip into the kettle and get all your goodies out?
It's a reasonably open weave on the bag, a bit like a sheer curtain material. So 90% of the water will drain straight back into the wort will drain straight back into the kettle. You then hoist the bag, hold it above the kettle. Very rudimentary rope, 3 knots, keeps it up above it, and it just slowly drains back into the kettle as you're bringing it up to the boil.
How long do you let it drain into the kettle?
Well, I tend to mash for 90 minutes, but I'm very paranoid about conversion. Other people have used 60 minutes and get away with it.
And then what about the draining portion? Is that 15 minutes, 30 minutes to drain that thing fully?
Probably 15, 30 minutes. I've never really timed it. When it's ready, it's slowed down the draining. It's time to take the bag away from the kettle, but you're already at the boil by that point, and it's just as normal brewing. Your hop additions go in when your timetable says.
So you can let it drain into the kettle while you're boiling, even, and just let it go until it's completely done and dry, and then ready to compost.
Oh, you certainly can do that, and you end up with less waste of water in your grains. With most all grain systems, you hear about 1 litre per kilo of grain. With the brew in a bag, it's more like half litre per kilo of grain.
Right, I imagine you could get it pretty dry. Now what about, what would you say is the true advantage to brew in a bag?
Pretty much the true advantage is cost. If you're brewing full boil extract brews, all you need is a bag, and you're into all grain without the extra expense of the mash tun, the lauter tun, etc., etc., etc.
That's a pretty good advantage for most of our listeners, I think. Now what about the disadvantage? What would you say is the key disadvantage to brew in a bag?
The main disadvantages with brew in a bag is you do have a cloudy wort at the start of the boil. However, once your boil's finished, you put in your Werflock or Irish moss. Most of the proteins do precipitate out. The other disadvantages is I've never tried it, but I've read that high gravity brews can suffer with the efficiency.
So, Dwayne, now what about beer quality? Does brew in a bag make a different beer quality than, say, a 3-vessel system?
From my experience tasting beers in 3-vessel and brew in a bag, the beers are equally as good, the same or better from brew in a bag. The only drawbacks I've found from brew in a bag is you do get more trub in the bottom of the kettle, and, well, once the work goes through, if you put the proper processes in place, you can get a clear beer from brew in a bag, so even, and you save a lot of time.
Why are people bagging on brew in a bag?
I'm not too sure, but as far as I can see, it's bringing out good quality beers that I couldn't afford to pump out otherwise. If I was still waiting to go 3V, I'd still be pumping out kit and kilo or extract beers, which I was never happy with.
So, how about efficiency? Does efficiency suffer from this method? I would think that you could do okay, much like batch sparging. But if you were trying to, rinse out a lot of the grains, you don't really have a way of rinsing the grains from the sugars from the grains. It's really only just, first runnings only, right?
It is like first runnings. However, you do tend to get more of the sugars out. I average around 75% efficiency. I do crush my own grain with a monster mill. It is fairly fine with a lot of flour, but the bag contains the flour. And most of the flour, once you finish your conversion, ends up like a couscous consistency.
Well, and I think that's also interesting. I would think with this method, since you're not really worried about stuck mash, you could mill your grain nice and fine and not really have a problem with stuck mash because you pick it up to drain it. It's not going to ever really get stuck.
No, you don't get stuck mashes with the Brew in a Bag. I have adjusted my mill to suit, but the main reason was when doughing in, we tended to get a few dough balls, and it was a pain in the arse to get them out. But I've got my monster mill set on about 43 thou of an inch, a very good fine crush. As I said, the flour tends to turn into a couscous type consistency, and it drains out perfectly.
So, Mark, where does one get the bags for Brew in a Bag?
Well, you can buy them from a homebrew shop in WA called Gryphon Brewing, or you can get curtain shear material, polyester style, from your local haberdashery or whatever they call it in the US, and make it up to fit the kettle.
Okay, so just polyester material and like a thin screening material and knit a bag out of it. Now, why not the paint strainer bags? I thought that's what was being used.
I'm not too sure on the paint strainer bags, but I do have a hop bag, and it's a very fine mesh and it takes forever to drain. It's a pain in the arse, to be honest.
Okay, so it's a coarser weave than the hop bag material. The hop bag material is too fine a weave, so you're looking for something a little more open weave than that for this Brew in a Bag?
Yeah, a little bit more open. Not a lot, but a little. It's hard to explain, but it is a polyester material. Most people see it as curtain shear material.
Okay, and you could pick it up at some of the websites in Australia seem like they're going to start carrying this sort of thing, and so if you can't make it yourself, you can at least find it there.
Certainly, I have got one that was homemade, and I do have one that would come from Gryphon Brewing in WA.
I imagine shipping's cheap on it because it doesn't weigh anything, but what's the cost of the bag for a typical 20-litre batch?
The bag I have from Gryphon was around $50 Australian. To make it yourself, if you have a little bit of handyman skills to use the sewing machine, you could probably do it for 20.
Okay, great. Sounds cheap. So, any other tips for our listeners if they're going to try this Brew in a Bag thing?
The only thing I can think of is when you're mashing in, pour your grain in slowly, stir as you're pouring in. Once your conversion's done, your bag's lifted, it's the same as any other brew. You just boil, add hops when you need it, boil as long as the malt requires. Like Pilsner malt, you need a 100-minute boil, ale malt 60-minute, or variations of the above.
Great. I think it sounds like an interesting concept. I don't see any reason why people shouldn't try it. Thanks a bunch, Mark.
You're quite welcome.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for every beer style. I want a Cicerone.
The Cicerone Certification Program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a Certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmasters database if you want, and the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmasters Warehouse is run the way a home brewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmasters Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
Do you support the Brewing Network? Do you brew your own? Are you looking for an economical, fun, and legal way to do both? Subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine and do just that. All year long, Brew Your Own will surprise you, entertain you, and educate you with articles on beer and brewing from authors like the Brewing Network's very own Jamel Zalashat and John Palmer. Each issue is a full pint of brewing techniques, homebrew stories, tips and photos, projects to make yourself, and recipes for the avid home brewer. Get your tough questions answered by Mr. Wizard and polish your style accuracy with Jamel. A portion of every subscription goes to the Brewing Network, so subscribe today at byo.com/Brewing Network, or just click the BYO logo on the Brewing Network homepage and support a fantastic hobby and your favorite broadcaster. Brew Your Own, the how-to homebrew beer magazine.
This September, More Beer is proud to introduce you to JP.
My name is Jason Petros, and I'm the More Beer brand manager.
Award-winning home brewer and brand manager for More Beer.
I've been working for More Beer and homebrewing for 13 years. The thing I like best about working at More Beer is being able to bring new products to homebrewers across our social network and being able to interact with them in a more casual way.
JP is cutting you some awesome deals this month.
My 5 favorite things to brew with right now is my 1550 tippy dump system. Second is the wort chiller recirculation arm. I really enjoy being able to do a whirlpool at the end of the boil. Third, French oak cubes. I really enjoy using French oak cubes in my beer for aging 6 months, 8 months. It comes out fantastic. Next is my own personal oak-aged, dry-nibbed oatmeal stout. It's probably my favorite beer to drink that I currently brew. And the last one is Ranco Digital Temperature Controller 2-stage. I really enjoy using that, of course, with my temperature-controlled conical fermenter, so I can control both the heat and the cooling cycles at the same time.
All of JP's favorite brewing items are on sale this month only, and only at More Beer.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew strong.
All right, we're back. We're talking Brew in a Bag. I really enjoyed speaking with Mark and Dwayne, a couple of really nice guys that came out for the Beer and Brewer Expo and hung out, bought me a bunch of beers and stuff, and we had a good time. I really like those guys. But it was really nice to get an interview with folks that's their bread and butter. They do Brew in a Bag, right, exclusively, and so they've done a lot of it. And it was nice to hear from that, because I haven't done Brew in a Bag. Now, John, you've done like small scale Brew in a Bag, experimentation, things like that.
Right. I've done mini mashes, basically. A 5-gallon pot, and say half my total extract I've gotten from Brew in a Bag. And I wrote that up for our book, Brewing Classic Styles. It's a convenient way, it's an easy way to do a mini mash on the stove.
So if you're an extract brewer and you're coming across recipes in books like Brewing Classic Styles, and it requires grains that can't be just steeped, like Munich, biscuit, aromatic, things like that. They really should be mashed. You put that in a grain bag, and then do a mash on the stove in a pot, or even in your brew kettle,
right,
before you add your extract. And
right.
It's just essentially the same thing, kind of mash in a bag. I think part of the confusion that people have with this is it's brew in a bag, and they're like, what does that mean? I think if it said mash in a bag.
Right. Yeah, that'd make it a little clearer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easy as Dwayne and Mark were saying. It's as easy as putting the bag in the kettle, pouring your grains in, doing the mash as if any other as if you were in a cooler or any other vessel, and then simply lifting up the bag to drain the wort out when you're done. So the only piece of equipment you're going to need is this bag, and the bag needs to be fairly strong, right? Because you're going to pick up 20, 25 pounds of wet grain. Sure, yeah, 10, anywhere from 10 to 20, depending on how much how big a batch size you're doing at the moment. 10 pounds of grain translates to about 20 pounds of liquid, or even more when you first pick it up, and that starts to drain out.
So it might be helpful to have like a pulley and a rope, and you can winch it on up and tie it off. It would make it real simple, I think.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the pictures I've seen, throw a clothesline over the rafter and hoist it up that way. The smaller batch like I did, it was just a matter of holding 5 pounds over the kettle for a minute. But and as Dwayne was saying, I guess it was Dwayne was saying that he leaves it there and lets it drain as he's starting to heat up starting his boil. He can just let it keep draining, and you don't have to worry about trying to squeeze it out or anything. Just let it go while you're heating up.
Yeah. So as long as you got something to hold it up for you. You fire up your kettle, and this is one thing that we do when we're, all grain brewing and, fly sparging or whatever. As soon as I get, a couple inches of wort in the kettle, I turn on my burner.
Right.
And I turn on low. I don't want to get it boiling right away, but I want to have it real close to boiling so that when I'm done, I just, hit a little more gas, and then I'm boiling, so I'm not wasting time. And I guess that's one of the time savings of this. Rick was asking about time savings. He wants to cut some time off his brew day. Where's the time savings on this? I guess you don't have to clean a mash tun after you're done. You have a bag to rinse out, but where else are you saving time?
Well, you're eliminating the sparge.
Ah, okay, that's a big time saving.
Yeah, it's about an hour. Depending on your sparge method, and that cuts that out. Similar to no sparge brewing technique or batch sparging, where you're cutting down the amount of time you spend with the sparge that way. But the brew in the bag system, or mash in a bag, as we were saying, you hoist it up, start letting it drain, start heating up your kettle, and so by the time you get to your boil,
it's fully drained.
Yeah, it's fully drained. You just take it out of the way and dump it out.
I kind of like the idea of fully draining the grain and getting it fairly dry before tossing it, and then
cuts down the smell.
Right, and you're also making the most efficiency out of what you've got there. But I assume your efficiency is going to be very similar to no sparge brewing.
Yeah, and depending on your grist ratio and so on. No sparge tends to be 65 to 75% efficiency.
That's not bad.
Yeah, which isn't bad at all. So, and as you say, it's a first runnings type wort. So, it's not an over sparge wort.
Yeah.
It's a very high quality wort. The only thing that brew in the bag is lacking is the recirculation step or the clarification step.
Right.
That a lot of other all grain brewing techniques include what we call the Vorloff step. And you end up with a little cloudier wort. You end up with more trub going into the boil kettle, but it's still a high quality first runnings type wort.
So I wondered about that when I was talking to Mark and Dwayne, whether I would think, you got a valve on the kettle, you could drain some wort out of that and, put it back in on the top of the bag, open the bag up and pour it in the top and just keep doing that.
Sure.
I guess you disturb that grain bed when you lift up on the bag. You'd set a grain bed and you could clarify, because all the grain will settle there, and you just keep doing that, and it should clear up. You should be able to get the Vorloff
a lot
to some extent, right?
Yeah, although the hydrodynamics of that system, I think a lot of the work is going to immediately flow to the outside and run down
channel
the outside.
Down the outside.
Exactly.
Well,
you might not get much clarification.
Yeah, the grain should push the bag out to the outside, right? Mm-hmm. Up against the kettle walls. I think if you poured right in the center, maybe you get more of those particles trapped in the grain bed. I don't think it would hurt.
No,
if you were to do that, it'd probably help even out mash temperature.
Yeah.
So it might be worth doing if somebody wants to give that a shot, and it may actually clear up the wort a little bit. Do you think, or? Waste of time?
I think it could. I think it could.
Okay. So how about giving us some details on the steps? Give us some example steps for doing a mash. Mark and Dwayne gave us kind of the overview. Can you give us specific steps?
Okay. Well, you want a bag that has about the same dimensions as your brew pot, and unless you're doing a partial mash like I was doing, this is going to be a full boil type batch. So you're gonna be looking for at least I was gonna say a 10-gallon pot to try to use. Maybe it would translates to 40 liter roughly. Pretty big pot, and then you're going to want to make a bag that has almost the same volume, so that bag can go out to the edges. That gives you good flow characteristics during your mash. Your grain isn't pre-compacted inside of the bag, because if it's compacted in the bag during the mash, you're not going to get good conversion. You don't get good wort flow. Good.
You can't even get the water in there if it's all tight.
Right. So you want a bag that's big enough. Line the outside of the kettle.
You'd have a big enough sack to do this.
And I imagine this isn't a problem in Australia, but it could be a problem here in the States. And make your own bag, and then mash in with a water to grist ratio of about at least 2 to 1. Probably 3 to 1 is about the average of what the Australians are using, and that allows for good fluidity. You've got good flow, good enzyme access to the starches, and
enough liquid for a batch of beer.
Right.
Yeah.
And and even if you go up to 4 to 1, I think, which will really probably approach your final boil volume for average size brews.
Right.
And then stir, conduct your mash, and then when you're done, raise it up.
Okay. And then all drains in there. You check your gravity.
Right.
You can use a hydrometer, or you could use a refractometer. Check the gravity, and then you would adjust. Probably by adding water to get to the right pre-boil volume and pre-boil gravity, and then go from there. Or if you're too low for some reason, you'd adjust for volume, and then maybe add some extract, some DME or LME,
right,
to get you to the right pre-boil gravity. Okay. And then the rest of the process is just the same as normal beer. You just you're not worried about anything different. So the things that people are worried about, though, my first thoughts were, what effect could that excessive turbidity have on the beer? Is there a hot side aeration worry about lifting this bag out or putting all the grain in a bag and stirring it? That would probably be the two things I would think might be an issue. You have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same concerns I initially had when I heard about it. We here at the States tend to be pretty anal brewers. I mean, real paranoid. Oh, it's got to be nitrogen, blanket and vacuum sealed and this and that, and really, because we as homebrewers here in the States, we tend to be looking towards Anheuser-Busch and the other big breweries and the almost automated way they do everything. So it takes some arm twisting for us to relax and kind of scale back to a more manual brewing system, which this is. But when you look at the science of what's actually going on, and you dig into some of the professional literature on it, it really sheds some very positive light on this technique. There's several articles in the Journal of the American Association of Brewing Scientists, brewing chemists, and the other professional journals where they've studied the effect of wort turbidity on fermentation performance, and wort turbidity, or the cloudiness of the wort, is they've added hot trub, cold trub to different worts and put them through the same fermentation conditions, same amount of aeration, keeping other factors the same, and looked at the effect of the turbidity on the fermentation, and found some very positive effects. They lower the acetaldehyde
acetaldehyde.
Yeah, whatever the fuck it is. Anyway,
I'm going to have that put on my tombstone.
Yeah,
acetaldehyde.
It lowers the acetaldehyde levels. Improves, kind of improves the vigor of the fermentation. Mm-hmm. The yeast take up the byproducts more readily. You get stronger yeast by providing them more of these, grain and wort nutrients by keeping them in the boil. They instead of separating off like we often do with immersion chilling in the pot and then racking off the cold and hot trub. This way, all of that nutrient goes into the fermentation, and it does seem to have a positive effect on the fermentation and the beer itself. Hot side aeration is another concern that's has been brought up, and I think you do experience wort darkening because of the exposure to oxygen of the wort as it's draining from the bag.
Mm-hmm.
However, as Dr. Charles Bamforth told us in our hot side aeration show, if you have if you pitch healthy yeast and pitch enough healthy yeast, they're going to take care of that. They're going to, that oxygen take up that occurs in the wort at that time is going to be scrubbed out by the yeast, and you really won't have any beer staling to worry about, any increased risk of beer staling due to this method. So. It's surprisingly robust process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the mash in general is very forgiving. It doesn't tend to be any real, unless you're really abusive. Generally you're going to make a fine wort, and the beer's going to turn out great. Maybe you do some things that shorten the shelf life and increase staling, but. It's pretty hard to really mess it up.
Right.
Okay. Is there any other advantages or disadvantages to this brew in a bag or mash in a bag method?
I think just the time savings in terms of being able to cut out about an hour of the brew day.
Right.
Whether it's from an extended sparge or just reducing the amount of equipment you've got to buy and clean.
Right.
That.
Well, and cost savings too.
Yeah.
If you don't need another vessel.
Yeah, but a lot of the brewing I've been doing lately has been extract and specialty grain, just because I know I can knock out a batch of beer in 3 to 4 hours rather than 6 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
I like all grain brewing. Mm-hmm. But there are many days, or weekends where I look at the time, and after the kids soccer practice and stuff, I've only got this much time.
Right.
And I know I can knock out an extract and specialty grain batch instead of an all grain batch, because I do, full sparge and so on. Where if, I should try a brew in the bag all grain brew, it'd be about the same time as the extract and specialty grain.
Well, you can make an award-winning beer with extract and specialty grain. I see no reason why you couldn't make award-winning beer with the brew in a bag method either.
Yeah, we've tasted brew in the bag beers when we were in Australia, and indistinguishable from the other beers we were tasting.
Right. It's more about fermentation, I think. Brewing beer, and that's why this yeast book that by Chris White and myself. You can pick up a signed copy in the Brewing Network store, as a matter of fact. You can go down there, and they're in the store, and you buy pre-sale, and they'll be signed, and you'll get them pretty darn quick, because they're direct shipping from the publisher to the Brewing Network, because we got such a large order of books coming.
So that speaks well to our audience, doesn't it?
That's right. So you guys better buy all those books, because I told Justin you would.
Those will be ready, late September?
Yeah, right after GABF, they should be shipping them to us. So we'll have them, and you just have to wait for Chris and myself to sign them all, and then they'll be shipping out. We'll probably sign them in batches of a couple hundred at a time, and they'll ship them as fast as they can. So get in there, sign up, Brewing Network store. All right, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll answer your questions about Brew in a Bag, and we'll wrap up. Back after this.
The cutting-edge equipment from Blickman Engineering is designed by brewers to make your brew day shorter, more enjoyable, and to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon. Keep up with the latest from Blickman at BlickmanEngineering.com. And stay on the cutting edge.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian two-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to WilliamsBrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's WilliamsBrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Brewers Publications is proud to announce their newest release, Yeast, the Practical Guide to Beer Fermentation by Chris White and Jamil Zainasheff. The Practical Guide to Beer Fermentation is a resource for brewers of all experience levels. Chris and Jamil thoroughly cover yeast selection, storage, handling yeast, and how to culture yeast. Learn how to set up your own yeast lab, the basics of fermentation science and how it affects your beer, plus step-by-step procedures, equipment lists, and a comprehensive troubleshooting guide. Professionals and homebrewers trust Dr. Chris White, who founded White Labs Yeast more than 15 years ago. And Jamil Zainasheff is one of the most respected and most awarded homebrewers in history and co-author of Brewing Classic Styles with John Palmer. Visit Brewers Publications on Facebook for more information. Order your copy at shop.beertown.org or from the Brewing Network. Yeast, the Practical Guide to Beer Fermentation by two of the most trusted names in commercial and home brewing. Proudly available soon from Brewers Publications. Organic ingredients. Fresh, clean, good for you, good for the planet. Seven Bridges has the best selection of organic ingredients, including over 27 varieties of organic hops at breworganic.com. Join their mailing list for special deals and regular updates. They've been brewing organic and serving organic brewers for 13 years. They can help you brew great organic beer. And Seven Bridges is the proud host of the 4th Annual National Organic Brewing Challenge, the only BJCP-sanctioned nationwide brewing competition just for organic beers. Take the challenge this fall for a chance to win great prizes, including stainless steel brew kettles and organic brewing ingredients. This year, the challenge will be judged in 2 locations: on the East Coast at Capital City Brewing in Arlington, Virginia, and on the West Coast at Gordon Biersch in San Jose, California. For complete details, visit breworganic.com/competition. Seven Bridges is cooperatively owned in awesome Santa Cruz, California. Everyone there is dedicated to great beer and people-friendly business practices. They offer environmentally friendly, fair trade, and fair wage brewing products whenever possible. Seven Bridges, breworganic.com.
This is www.thebrewingnetwork.com.
Sit down next to it, grab yourself a paper towel, and watch those yeast have sex.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing.
This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're talking brew in a bag. In a bag. I don't know why I say that. Just seems to fit. In a bag. Yeah, well, it's better than saying, well.
There you
go. Well, bag. Well, it's bag. All right, so there's also a Brew in a Bag website, I guess, that gives you a lot of information. So you might want to check that out if you've got some interest in pursuing Brew in a Bag. I think it's definitely well worth trying. You know, I'm already set up with Blickman top tier system, so
yeah,
I don't know that I'd go Brew in a Bag myself. But if you're working with extract and want to make a jump to all grain, or you want to be mess around with mashing, I think that's a pretty attractive way to go. You know, it's one little piece of equipment, the bag, and you're off and running.
Yeah.
So
you can use lots of different bag materials, I'm sure.
And if you like it, you could, and you want to really get in all grain, then you can go ahead later on when finances permit, or you feel like you're definitely into it, and get yourself a separate mash tun or something like that. All right, questions from the chat.
Yeah, one question that came through from Brew Bastard in the chat room wants to know if there is a way to do a decoction with this brew in a bag method.
Interesting. I would think you could. You would just get a saucepan, and just dig out some of the mash out of the top, move it to a separate burner, and go ahead and boil it, do your decoction, and then add it back in, stir it in.
Yeah, I think you'd treat that decoction same as you would any other mash vessel. As you say, dip it out in a saucepan or a strainer, and
or get yourself a ladle and ladle it out.
Yeah,
either way.
Yeah, it's really that brew in a bag mashing and regular infusion mashing would be the same. So pulling decoction from that mash tun would be the same as regular.
The difference comes in
the
really
lautering technique.
Yeah, lautering or lack of it.
Yeah,
and no Vorlauf, or maybe Vorlaufing would work. And if you want to raise the temperature, direct fire might be a problem. I was thinking you could lift it up, heat up the liquid below. With the burner, and then turn off the burner and lower it back in, and that might work.
Well, I mean, for mash out, certainly, yeah. I mean,
or
but if you
even step mashing,
Yes, you're right. It's a step mash that would work well.
Right. So I think there's plenty of options there. I don't think it's really too limited. All right, a good question. Next one.
All right, a couple of discussions that were going on in the forum. One was about what kind of bags to use, and Stinkfist in the chat room says that he uses paint strainer bags from Home Depot, which I thought was interesting because I thought you always wanted everything to be food grade when it was your buckets and everything else.
Well,
isn't everything at Home Depot food grade?
Right.
That's what I used when I did brew in a bag mini mash for for brewing classic styles, I use the Home Depot paint strainer bags, and you get the I guess it's the 5-gallon size bag, and that can hold about 5 pounds of grain, no problem.
Okay,
and fits in a standard 5 to 8 gallon pot that you would that you would have for a
do they have
extract brewing.
Really big paint strainer bags for doing a full mash?
The largest I saw there were the 5-gallon size, which are sized to fit a 5-gallon bucket.
Paint bucket, yeah.
The mesh size is, it's almost like window screen. It's a little coarser than a hop bag, or what we see. The fine nylon mesh we tend to see at
window screening and like mosquito netting all come in various sizings of the mesh.
But I was thinking, like, if you got new nylon window screen, you could sew yourself a bag out of that. That would be strong enough. You'd have to use some strong thread to sew it up with, but that would be about the right mesh size. Also,
you probably stitch it together with a light fishing line or something.
Yeah, and coarse enough that it would drain easily. The hop bag. The paint strainer bags and on the finer mesh sizes on down the side, like say a hop bag, as I forget the gentleman's name, Dwayne, was saying that it takes a long time to drain because it is real fine mesh and it captures a lot of the flour. But if that's not a real concern for you, those bags work as well.
Cool.
All right, and the other discussion going on was about getting the bag out. And are the Aussies just manning up and grabbing a hot...
yeah. They're all tough. Just very tough people.
Pinch your nose shut. She'll...
And it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just reach in there and just yank that thing out. Well, and I was thinking you could do a couple of things. One is you could make a loop on the top, stitch a loop of some kind of material on the top of your bag and use that to lift it out with a pulley. Or, you could even go ahead and, gather the end together, fold it over, and you can tie a rope under it and around it, and then use that to pull it out. If you've got some sort of a pulley or line over a post or something.
Tie it to the bumper of your truck.
Yeah, and have your 3-year-old step on the gas. Not too hard. Not too hard. No. And do it that way. To start with, you could, pull it up onto the side of the pot and kind of just inch it out that way, little by little. I was thinking, any number of ways, whatever, to yank that thing out of there.
So
it is heavy.
Mauser in the chat room says that he started using an old fermenting bucket with holes drilled in it inside his bottling bucket that works pretty well. Is that the same as doing this brew in the bag method? And then you're able to, I assume it has a handle.
If he's got the bag in there, I guess.
Right.
Because Charlie Papazian, he has that Zap Pap thing, which is you take one bucket and you drill a bunch of really tiny little holes, like 1 million of them in the bottom of one bucket, and then place it inside the other, and that becomes your mash tun.
Okay.
Yeah, false bottom type mash tun, yeah.
So you can do that, or I guess if you had bigger holes, then, the brew in a bag could rest in that and drain through that. So I think all those are certainly possible.
Okay. Well, that was it from the chat today.
Well, that brings up kind of an idea. I mean, you could have some sort of a false bottom that you put into your kettle that isn't really a real fine false bottom, but just more like a platform with big holes in it to hold the bag up off the bottom.
Right, yeah.
Something like that would work too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think that's brewing a bag. It's an interesting technique invented, I guess, from our friends down in Australia, and it seems like definitely worth giving it a go if you have an interest in something like that.
Yeah, easy way to make great beer.
Yeah. All right. So if you're listening live, stay tuned. We've got a show on adjuncts coming up. John's going to tell you all about that. And if you're listening on the podcast, you should listen live. That way you wouldn't have to wait 2 weeks. in between shows. Make sure you check out BlickmanEngineering.com. They've got this promo going on where John, myself, and John Blickman will come out to your place to brew with you. You buy a Blickman system between now and January 31st, and you're entered into that drawing. And come out, we'll have a good old time. Also, check out the Brewing Network store. We've got signed yeast books in there from Chris White and myself. You can pre-order them, and we'll get them out to you just about as quickly as you're going to get them from the Brewing Network. No extra charge for signing those books, so that's the place to get them. And if you get a chance, check out other things on the Brewing Network store. All sorts of great shirts. John's wearing a Brew Strong shirt today. I'm wearing a Hop Grenade shirt. Justin's wearing a Hop Leaf shirt. And we also got great glassware, other things like that. You check out Brew Your Own magazine. Big link there. Click on that Brew Your Own logo, and half the cost of the subscription goes to the Brewing Network. So that's a good one for us. And good one for you, because it's a lot of great information in there. I write for it all the time. And John does as well.
Yeah.
And good stuff in there. And don't forget, very important, don't forget that yellow perch is nothing like walleye.
Walleye is better.
Brew Strong.
Brew Strong, everybody.